What if the greatest love story of your life was not about finding someone else, but about finally understanding yourself, choosing yourself, and staying loyal to your own heart even when the world walked away? I didn't learn how to master myself from a book or a teacher. I learned it the way people learn love. Through mistakes, through heartbreak, through moments where I lost myself trying to be enough for someone else. There was a time when I gave my heart away too easily. I trusted without knowing my own worth. I listened to everyone's voice except my own. And every time life disappointed me, I blamed the world. But the truth was quieter. I had never truly met myself. Mastering yourself begins the moment you stop running from who you are. It begins when you sit alone with your thoughts. When you face your fears the same way lovers face uncomfortable truths. Not to fight them, but to understand them. I started listening to myself the way I once listened to someone I loved. Every emotion became a message. Every pain became a lesson. Every silence became a conversation. Self-mastery is not about controlling everything. It's about choosing your response with care. Like choosing words during an argument with someone you don't want to lose. It's about pausing instead of reacting. Breathing instead of breaking. I learned that discipline is a form of love. Waking up when you don't feel like it. Letting go when your heart wants to hold on. Saying no when your comfort begs for yes. Just like love, mastering yourself demands commitment. Even on days when motivation disappears. Even when no one is watching. Even when quitting feels easier. There were moments I wanted to escape myself. Moments when my emotions felt too heavy. But instead of abandoning myself again, I stayed. I stayed with my flaws. I stayed with my confusion. I stayed with my unfinished dreams. And slowly, the chaos inside me softened. I realized that emotional control doesn't mean becoming cold. It means learning how to feel deeply without drowning. How to love without losing identity. How to care without self-destruction. Mastering yourself is choosing peace over ego. Growth over comfort. Purpose over pleasure. It's learning to protect your energy the way you protect someone you love. It's forgiving yourself the way you forgive someone you care about. It's trusting yourself enough to walk alone when the path demands it. And one day, you wake up stronger, calmer, more grounded, not because life became easier, but because you stopped fighting yourself. That's when you understand. The deepest love story isn't about being completed by someone else. It's about becoming whole on your own. And staying loyal to the person you are becoming. Falling in love with your own soul is not something that happens in a single moment. It begins quietly, often after disappointment, after giving too much of yourself to people who never truly saw you. For a long time, love feels like something that exists outside of you, something you must earn, chase, or prove yourself worthy of. You shape your personality to fit expectations, silence your needs to keep peace, and slowly drift away from who you really are. The absence of self-love does not arrive loudly, it settles in gently, disguised as sacrifice, disguised as loyalty, disguised as care. At some point, exhaustion speaks louder than desire. You begin to notice how empty you feel even when surrounded by people. You realize that every time you searched for love in someone else, you were really searching for permission to value yourself. Falling in love with your own soul starts when you stop asking others to confirm your worth. It is the moment you choose to sit with yourself instead of escaping into distractions, relationships, or noise. In that silence, you meet parts of yourself you once ignored, the fears, the insecurities, the dreams you buried to be accepted. Loving yourself does not mean pretending you are perfect. It means seeing your flaws clearly and staying anyway. Just like real love, it requires patience. There are days when you disappoint yourself, when old habits return, when doubt becomes louder than confidence. Self-love is choosing not to abandon yourself in those moments. It is forgiving your past decisions and understanding that growth is not a straight line. You begin to treat your emotions with respect, listening to what they are trying to tell you instead of judging them. As this relationship with yourself deepens, your standards begin to change. You no longer beg for attention or chase validation. You start protecting your energy because you understand its value. You choose environments that nurture you and distance yourself from what drains you. Loving your own soul teaches you how to be alone without feeling lonely, how to enjoy your own presence without feeling incomplete. Before seeking love outside, you learn how to give it inward. You become your own safe place, your own source of reassurance. This inner connection becomes the foundation of self-mastery, because once you are rooted in yourself, no external situation can easily shake your sense of worth. Learning to listen to your inner voice is like learning the language of someone you love deeply. At first, it feels unfamiliar and faint, almost drowned out by the noise of opinions, expectations, and constant comparison. The world is loud, and for a long time you allow that noise to speak for you. You make choices based on approval, fear, and habit, while your own voice waits patiently beneath the surface. It never disappears, it only grows quieter when ignored. When you finally slow down, when you stop running from stillness, that voice begins to rise. It does not shout or demand attention. It speaks softly, often through feelings rather than words. A sense of discomfort when something is wrong. A calm certainty when something is right. Listening to it requires trust, the same kind of trust you offer a partner when you believe their honesty without needing proof. You start paying attention to how your body reacts, how your heart responds, how your energy shifts around certain people and situations. Just like in love, listening is not only about hearing, it is about understanding. Your inner voice does not always tell you what you want to hear. Sometimes it asks you to walk away when attachment begs you to stay. Sometimes it warns you before pain arrives. Ignoring it often leads to regret, the same regret felt when you overlook red flags in a relationship because emotions cloud judgment. Over time, you begin to recognize patterns. You see how every time you betrayed your inner voice, you also betrayed yourself. Listening to yourself requires silence, and silence can feel uncomfortable. It exposes unresolved emotions and unfinished thoughts. But within that silence, clarity grows. You learn to pause before reacting, to reflect before deciding. This awareness becomes an act of love. You stop forcing yourself into situations that feel wrong just to avoid loneliness. You start choosing alignment over approval. As you deepen this connection, confidence replaces confusion. Decisions feel lighter because they come from truth rather than pressure. You become more honest, not only with others but with yourself. You acknowledge your limits, your needs, and your desires without guilt. This inner dialogue becomes a daily practice, a relationship that strengthens with attention and care, guiding you gently toward balance, authenticity, and emotional stability. Controlling emotions without killing feelings is one of the most delicate forms of self-mastery, because it asks you to stay deeply human while becoming emotionally intelligent. Emotions are not enemies, they are messengers, born from experiences, memories, and unspoken needs. The mistake many people make is trying to silence emotions instead of understanding them. In love, emotions are intense, unpredictable, and powerful, and learning to handle them is similar to learning how to hold something fragile without breaking it. At first, emotions arrive like waves. Anger rushes in before logic can speak. Sadness lingers longer than expected. Joy sometimes feels overwhelming. Without control, these emotions dictate reactions, leading to words spoken too quickly and actions taken too impulsively. Emotional control does not mean suppressing these feelings. It means creating space between what you feel and what you do. Just like in a loving relationship, where patience prevents unnecessary damage, emotional control allows wisdom to guide response. You begin by observing your emotions instead of identifying with them. You learn to say, "I feel angry," instead of "I am angry." This small shift creates distance, and within that distance lives choice. You give yourself permission to feel fully without letting those feelings take control of your behavior. When disappointment appears, you let it exist without letting it define your worth. When jealousy surfaces, you explore its source instead of acting on it blindly. In love, emotional maturity is shown in how you handle conflict, not in how you avoid it. The same applies internally. You stop fighting your emotions and start communicating with them. You ask why this feeling is present and what it needs to teach you. This internal conversation builds resilience. You become less reactive, more grounded, and more aware of your emotional patterns. There are moments when emotions will test you, especially when old wounds are triggered. In those moments, control feels difficult, but this is where growth happens. You breathe before responding. You allow the feeling to pass through without letting it stay in control. You understand that emotions are temporary, but the consequences of reactions can last much longer. By learning to manage emotions with care, you protect both yourself and others. You maintain sensitivity without weakness and strength without hardness. Emotional control becomes an act of self-respect, allowing you to love deeply, feel honestly, and remain centered even when emotions rise within you. Staying committed to yourself when life tests your loyalty is one of the hardest promises to keep, because the tests rarely arrive gently. They come disguised as comfort, approval, shortcuts, and familiar patterns that once felt safe. Life places situations in front of you that challenge your values, your discipline, and your self-respect, and in those moments, it becomes easy to betray yourself quietly. Just like in love, loyalty is not proven during easy days, but during moments when walking away from your truth feels tempting. There are times when choosing yourself means disappointing others. You say no when everyone expects yes. You step back when staying would mean losing your peace. This kind of commitment requires courage, because it often leads to loneliness before it leads to clarity. The fear of being misunderstood can feel heavier than the fear of self-betrayal, and many people choose acceptance over authenticity. Staying loyal to yourself means accepting that not everyone will understand your boundaries. In relationships, loyalty means consistency even when emotions fluctuate. The same principle applies inward. Some days you feel strong and clear, other days doubt whispers old insecurities. Commitment to yourself means showing up regardless of mood. It means continuing to work on your goals, even when motivation fades. It means choosing long-term growth over short-term relief. When life becomes overwhelming, the urge to escape is strong, but self-loyalty asks you to stay present instead of running. Life will offer distractions that pull you away from your purpose. Temporary pleasures that promise comfort but leave emptiness. Familiar habits that feel easy but keep you stuck. Each moment becomes a decision, a quiet agreement with yourself about who you are becoming. Staying loyal means remembering the reasons you started, remembering the pain that taught you to grow, remembering the version of yourself you promised to protect. Self-commitment also means honoring your emotional needs. You rest when your body asks for rest. You create space when your mind feels crowded. You forgive yourself without lowering your standards. This balance between discipline and compassion strengthens your inner trust. Over time, this trust becomes unbreakable, because you know that no matter what life brings, you will not abandon yourself for convenience or comfort. Becoming whole alone is not about rejecting love or isolating yourself from the world, it is about removing the belief that you are incomplete without someone else. Many people enter relationships searching for missing pieces, hoping another person will fill emotional gaps they have never learned to face. This dependency often turns love into attachment and fear into control. Learning to stand complete on your own shifts love from survival to choice. At first, solitude feels uncomfortable. Without distractions, unresolved emotions rise to the surface. You become aware of the silence you once avoided and the thoughts you once drowned out. Being alone forces honesty. It shows you where you rely too much on others for happiness, validation, or direction. Instead of escaping this discomfort, you begin to sit with it, understanding that growth often begins where comfort ends. Wholeness develops through self-awareness. You learn your triggers, your patterns, and your emotional needs. You stop expecting someone else to regulate your moods or fix your insecurities. This independence creates emotional stability. You become less reactive and more intentional. When loneliness appears, you respond with self-care rather than desperation. When sadness arrives, you meet it with understanding rather than avoidance. As you grow whole within yourself, your standards change naturally. You no longer chase attention or tolerate disrespect. You value connection, but you no longer need it to feel worthy. Love becomes something you share, not something you use to feel complete. This inner strength allows you to walk away from unhealthy attachments without feeling broken. Choosing love from a place of wholeness creates balance. You give without losing yourself. You receive without fear of abandonment. You appreciate companionship without depending on it. Your happiness is no longer fragile, because it is rooted in self-respect and inner peace. When you become whole alone, love transforms. It becomes a conscious decision rather than an emotional dependency. You invite others into your life not to save you, but to walk beside you. This mindset protects your identity, preserves your individuality, and allows love to grow freely without pressure, expectations, or emotional hunger.